sailing someplace else. Bells ringing through my ears and little lights flashing through my eyes. I pictured myself paddling across a river with black water. Only the canoe was going backwards instead of forwards, with clouds that were faces laughing spooky funhouse laughs which wouldn't stop echoing. More sniffs and more freaky visions, the ringing bell sound just getting louder the more I breathed the stuff into my lungs. I kept it up for about 10 minutes, but by then I was getting too dizzy to handle it, and I had to fling down the rag and make it to the side rail, sick as possible. I began puking wildly. My eyes felt like bowling balls, and they were watering like mad. Tony and Yogi had done themselves in too, and they ran over to join in the ceremony. Then we recovered enough to hear shouts from the bottom deck, and wiping off our eyes, we realized we had zeroed in all over the head of some dude. More unfortunate was the fact that the guy was fantastically huge and looked horribly pissed. We wasted no time in making it for the nearest hiding spot, knowing the guy would be up after us any second. We got to the other side of the boat and did a quick Steve McQueen act over the rail and down to the lowest deck. Then we ducked into the bathroom and into the last toilet stall, locking the door and sweating our balls off. We hung on in there, reading the little penciled-in obscenities until the boat docked. After about 10 minutes, we sent Yogi out to see if the coast was clear. He came back and signaled us out, and we ran our asses off the boat, through the terminal, onto the nearest bus. We came to a nice park somewhere in the middle of the island and played ball with the local lames all day, taking on everyone, even guys as old as 16 or so. It was almost dark when we caught our ferry back to the city again, keeping a sharp lookout for our friend and vowing we'd never sniff that stuff on any ferry again. They finally took away old Mrs. McNulty today. She was this incredibly nutty lady who lived right across the alley from our window in the building. She had a very scary habit of going to her sink every night in her bra and panties and offering mass over it as if it were an altar. She knew the mass inside out, but she would interject incredible obscenities whenever the Virgin Mary's name came up, or Christ's name too, for that matter. She had all the standard equipment for the Mass, a gold chalice and all the rest. But at the part that appeared to be what the Catholics considered the consecration, she would shove the thing between her legs and yell like, "Suck me, eat my puss, God," things like that. The stuff she laid down about Mary was always the worst, and I would watch everything quite clearly and really shudder. Not that I was ever really religious, not since I was 8, actually, when one day I went into a church for the first time and tried to make friends with God by asking him to come home with me so we could watch the World Series together. But because I couldn't understand at all what the fuck could ever possess anyone to do something as fruity as that. Man, she really let fly some nights, yelling so that everyone in the building could hear her. When I told some friends about her, a lot of them wanted to come over and see, thinking the scene was really sexy or something. But she was an old lady, 65 at least, so the sight of her dressed like that and freaking the way she did was too disgusting. I always had to turn away. I guess someone complained once too often lately, and I saw her being tucked into an ambulance, very calm about it, while I was coming back from school today. Lefty drove us up to the Bronx this afternoon to play some Catholic school in a biddy league exhibition game. A few of the guys were sick, so many in fact, that we only had 5 men to start the game, and when Carson fouled out in the last period, we had to finish out with only 4 men on the court. No matter, It was the lamest bunch of saps ever put on a court, the other team, and we wiped them out by at least 40 points. Lefty sure can pick them. So after the swamp, we realized there was another bonus to be had besides winning. Carson had snuck into the other team's lockers after he got the boot and wiped out their valuables. We forced him into splitting up the take, and we slipped our clothes on over our uniforms, no showers, of course, and made a fast split out. When we reached Fordham Road down the block, we got Lefty to pull his car into the hamburger joint's lot and put the bite on him for some burgers. Everyone kept their mouths tight about looting the other team because there are two things Lefty forbids: using the word motherfucker and stealing from another team so long as they're white. Inside the place, he made it in order that we only get one hamburger each, but we all said fuck it to that because the burgers were like these 12-cent skimpy jobs, and you've got to get at least 8 or more to get filled. And that's just what we did. This distressed Lefty no end because the bill came to something like $9 and all he had was a $5. It caused a big scene and embarrassed Lefty, who had to leave his watch with the manager until he got the bread to him. Lefty got the last laugh on us, though, because he hopped into the station wagon in a steam and refused to drive us back to the Lower East Side. This upset us very much, seeing that the bunch of guys we had just robbed were heading toward us in the parking lot with assorted pipes, etc., ready to kick our bitty asses. "Face some music, pricks," chimed Lefty as he tooled out, leaving us, too, running our behinds off down Fordham Road, where we luckily mobbed into a cab and pulled out toward the nearest downtown subway with a crowd of angry Catholic ball players and their friends, led by a tough-looking Italian priest, his robe flowing behind us. It's a cold Saturday and the boys' club is closed for repairs, so I figure I'll take a trip up to the tip of Manhattan where my cousin lives and give him a little visit. Actually, I hate that scene 'cause the place is filled with all these Irish Catholic old biddies who gave me a lot of stares one time when I brought a bunch of black guys up there to play ball in the park against my cousin's friends. A bunch of black haters, too, who are into this real heavy beer drinking thing. But then again, a lot of them are good people once you dig them, and besides, I better get used to it because I've got to move up here with my family soon and finish the second half of the year at the school all these cats attend. So I throw a can of pink lemonade into a pitcher and drink the whole quart for breakfast, then walk over to the west side to catch the A train uptown. It's such a long fucking ride up there, all the way to the last stop on the line at 207th Street. It's like I was taking a trip to Albany or something, and I'm glad I brought along this sports magazine to break the boredom. So I'm reading this piece on how Bill Russell is going to eat up Wilter Stilt, and all is well until I reach 125th Street, and onto the train stumbles this old Irish drunk, and he sits right next to me, smelling like a brewery, and laying this gibberish sob drama on me. It never fails. Like, I hate these old peckers, but I think they search through trains looking for me, you know? Because in a half-filled car, they'll always pass up anyone else and come right over to me, either cursing, insane, bumming coin, or worst of all, the old sob routine. The trouble with me is I never had the nerve to tell them to fuck off or go find another seat myself. So what happens is that after about 2 stops or so later, I'm really involved with the dumb story the dude is laying on me, though I can't understand half of what he's saying. And I even start rapping back like, yeah, I know just what you mean. The same thing happened to a man I knew, and he became a drunk from it, and blah, 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 etc. You know, taking the dude really serious as if he were making sense. This particular guy today took the cake. He kept leaning all over me with his drooling mug, telling me how He killed his wife by accident by dropping a